If I put on my CEO/entrepreneur hat, when I think about the past year and a half or 2 years, it's like I said earlier, it's been a huge roller coaster. We made a lot of mistakes, and we did a lot of things well. The early stages of Skillshare, I also teach a class on MVP, and I go over the story of how we started Skillshare. So the early days of Skillshare actually backdates about 5 years ago. So about 5 years ago, I moved to New York, and before I moved here, I lived in New Orleans. So I decided to move post-Katrina to help rebuild the city. And while I was there, I worked for an advertising agency. And the other half of my time, I volunteered a lot, and I worked at an advertising agency as well. And from there, I decided I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, so I moved to New York. And at the time, I decided to work with this guy named Scott Belsky at Behance. And the line that he used to really convince me to, leave New Orleans is, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I started thinking a lot about that question. And my answer to him was I wanted to start my own company. I knew at the time, which was about 5 years ago, I didn't have the experience, nor did I have an idea. So I decided to join Behance. And I kind of was Scott Belsky's right-hand man. I did everything from editorial to business development to product, to working with the designers, to helping him write a book, to getting distribution for these notepads that we built all across the country. So I kind of got an education in startups there. From there, I left and joined another startup called Hot Potato, and led the product team there, which got acquired. And from there, I eventually went in and started Skillshare. So it's kind of like a ladder that I was climbing, over time. So if you think of the corporate world, there's a ladder that you climb if you work at a bank. You start off maybe as an analyst and get an associate, and then maybe become a vice president, and you kind of climb the ranks in the corporate world. I think in the entrepreneurial/startup world, it's a very similar ladder. And the ladder is through executing and working at different startups. So we decided to start Skillshare around the same time when I was working in all these startups. I would work in all these projects, creative projects on the side for fun. And one of them, I decided to throw a party with a bunch of other people. And we decided to throw a party the night before New Year's because New Year's Eve in New York is a really terrible experience. So we decided to throw a party called New Year's Eve Eve. And a lot of these are actually other entrepreneurs that started companies today. One of them was Noah Breyer, who started Percolate. Naveen was the co-founder of Foursquare, but this is when we were really young. So we decided to throw a party, and I was one of the hosts. And Malcolm, who's now the Skillshare co-founder, got invited to the party, and he kind of followed me on Twitter, and that's how we met. So that was probably about 3 to 4 years ago, and throughout that experience, me and him would meet all the time and talk to each other about all the ideas that we would have. And we would probably meet every single month, and the agenda for those meetings were to come with business ideas or startup ideas, and we would just kind of throw ideas around. This lasted for about 18 months. Around the same time, we're kind of testing each other out, looking to see if we would start a company together. One day, we probably had a list over 100 ideas, and we tried to narrow it down, and we really had a hard time narrowing those ideas down. We narrowed it down when we started talking about what we were really passionate about. I think Chris Dixon writes a lot about this, and he calls it founder market fit versus product market fit. Founder market fit is really revolved around what you're passionate about, and the question we asked ourselves really revolved on, what would you want to work on for the next 5, 10, 25 years of your life? And that was really easy for us because we were both really obsessed with solving the education problem. So that narrowed down all the ideas to one, which essentially became Skillshare. So when we started working on it, we didn't want to spend a lot of time building it, and we didn't want to spend a lot of money either, so we just, we literally MVP'd it. So if you look on my blog, and I can share the link, we decided to, rather than building a website, sorry, I'm just loading up the article right now, so I'll share it in the chat room. We basically, had a couple of things we wanted to validate to see if the idea would work. So this is really the early days of Skillshare. So we created a website that we designed and marked up in a day. We used Eventbrite to power all of our ticketing. And then every single month we would release 3 classes. And our only goal was to see if anyone would actually enroll into these classes. So after the first 3 months, all the classes sold out. We had thousands of people signing up for our beta launch. And that's when me and Malcolm decided to kind of jump in the deep end and start the company. So it's a really long answer on Skillshare's early days, but I guess the moral of that story is it didn't happen overnight. It was something that, me personally as an entrepreneur, that I was working towards for over 5 years. And we definitely MVP'd the early version of Skillshare.